Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is, what is today? Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. U.S. stock market has been open for almost exactly 30 minutes right now as we're just shy of 30 minutes as I'm recording this. I'm starting a few seconds before the top of the hour. I have to make one big major correction to yesterday's podcast. As I was recording yesterday's podcast, I was thinking that the jobs report was already out, and I was falsely reporting. I didn't do this on purpose, but I was looking yesterday at the end of the day when I pulled up this ADP employment report. I was just looking at the consensus, and then I was looking at this number out here and saying, wow, we blew it out, we beat it. The numbers didn't actually come out until this morning, so I was just plain and simply wrong on that. I was looking at the wrong thing and completely was off on that. I don't mind admitting freely when I've screwed something up and made a mistake, and yesterday I made a pretty good mistake. So my apologies for that. I kind of blew it yesterday on reporting that information. So let's start out this way. Today, the jobs report did come out, and it was way worse than what is expected. The consensus was 110,000. Private payrolls only added 37,000 new jobs. That's a huge miss. That's a major, major miss. In spite of that, the markets are trading up to start the day today. Here we are about 30 minutes into trading. Dow Jones Industrial Average up about 45. S&P up 9 and some change, NASDAQ up 33. Now all three indexes have been a little bit higher than this. They're slipping a little bit. In fact, on my TV in front of me, where I've got live numbers, these have a little bit of a delay on them, but where I've got my live numbers, I show the Dow was only up 22 a second ago. Now it's back up 40 something, so this isn't too far off. But it is wobbling a little bit, and you've got just over half the Dow components, half the Dow stocks are trading to the upside. A little less than half of them are trading to the downside. But the markets are kind of shrugging off this bad news. I think that's in part because their U.S. trade representatives have suggested that there's progress being made with the European Union. You don't see that very high up on the trending stories right here, but it is being reported. I think the markets overall, I think investors want to be very bullish. I told you yesterday in the podcast that I thought there was a good chance there would be some profit taking today. And it turns out that I think that's part of what's happening. I think the markets would be higher than what they are were it not for the fact that there is some profit taking on some things. NVIDIA is down a little bit. Just a tiny bit. Palantir is down a little bit. CrowdStrike had a big miss. They're down over 30 points, a little over 6%. So CrowdStrike is really taking it on the chin. But there's still some positives. CoreWeave is up a little bit again today. Dell is up a fraction. It was up a lot. Dell was up over $2 a share. Now it's only up about 10 cents. Our Dell trade, for those that are following that in the triple play, very, very interesting. I want you to keep an eye on Discord today, as we might make some changes on that. Marvell is flat as flat can be, and I talked a lot about that yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore today. Moving forward, you've got a couple of other reports that are coming out this week. Now, let me back up and talk about this jobs report again. Part of the reason I mentioned that the markets are kind of shrugging off this report, but there might be a little bit more to it. There is some hope that this kind of a weak report is going to cause the Fed to cut rates. I don't know that it's moved the needle significantly on what the betting market is predicting as of right now. Still mostly thinking that rates are going to stay the same. You've got 95% of the betting market still thinks that rates are going to be the same when the Fed meets in June, and that it's not going to be until we get into maybe the September. That's the first time you see that shift, and you see a larger percentage of people thinking that there will be a rate cut, but not until September. There's certainly a little bit of hope that bad number might cause the Fed to rethink that. So, we'll see what happens there. But that you've got that going on, and then later this week we've got tomorrow you've got the jobless numbers, and then you've got the full employment report on Friday. I think that full employment report is going to have to come in, even if it's a miss, it's going to have to be a lot closer. In other words, the miss can't be nearly as bad for things to still be good. You could, and look, good news that the Dow is up, good news that the S&P is up a little bit, good news that the Nasdaq is up. I'm not expecting any of that to hold today. I think before the day is over, I think all three of those indexes are going to be in the red, at least by a little bit, if not a lot. I think momentum is going to shift today, and I think you're going to see things sell off a little bit for the exact reasons that I outlined yesterday. I just think it's going to be a function of profit taking, and that things have maybe been a little bit overly optimistic in the last few trading days. It's been really nice that we've been on this run. I'm always more in favor of a bullish market than a bearish market. It's always what I want to see happening, but I just don't get the sense that this has the ability to last until there's some other really good news. This is, look at this range right here that we've been in with the S&P for a good 3 weeks now. I simply expect that to continue. Maybe not as sharp a drop off as there was a week and a half ago, but I think some wobbling back and forth, maybe a little bit slower over the next 2 to 3 weeks. That wobbling in the same exact range, and then with this caveat, at any time during that stretch of time, I think a deal getting finalized with the European Union, some trade negotiation talks getting finalized, or something very positive about a deal with China, another couple of big countries coming to the table with big deals. I think something like that could kind of take us out of this little range and get us back up to new all-time highs, or either of these things, one or the other, or both of them, some consensus in the Republican Party on the big beautiful bill, so to speak. And by the way, just in the maybe 7-8 minutes that I've been online, the Nasdaq has moved into negative territory, and like I said, I expect the S&P and the Dow are both going to follow. The Dow is only up 7 points now, bouncing around between 7 and 10 points up. The S&P barely holding on to some gains, but like I said, I think before the day is over, all three of those are going to be negative, and I think they could be negative by a pretty good margin. I think they could all take a little bit of a hit. So anyway, but we'll see what happens. I could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we turn around and everything is positive. And there you can see the S&P finally succumbed to negative territory, and Nasdaq down a little bit more, and the Dow just barely holding on to gains. So keep an eye on that today. If you're, like I said, if you're in the triple play trades especially, keep an eye on Discord as much as you can today. We will possibly make an adjustment to Dell, although Dell is now in negative territory, and that's actually good for our trade, kind of trending back the direction we need it to. So we'll just keep an eye on that. I'd like to see Dell sell off. Like, when I say sell off, I'd like to see it collapse in the next couple of days. Don't know if we'll get there or not, but I do think it's going to slide back down today, maybe get back down under 110. It'd have to go a little ways farther down. Nvidia down $1.60, Palantir down $7.50. That Palantir's taking a big hit today. So we'll see what happens there. But I think that's all I've got for this morning. I'll get this put online as quickly as I can. Hopefully more of you can join me tomorrow morning. Get a few more people on here live. But in the meantime, have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you back here live tomorrow. Bye-bye.